In Poland, we have a beautiful tradition that on Christmas Eve, we gather around the table and we break unleavened bread we call opłatek. It looks like communion bread, a wafer, a very thin wafer. We exchange good wishes, we break the wafer, and then we start eating. Now, if you are lucky enough to grow up in the country, like I did, my father and grandfather were forest rangers, so we lived in the middle of nowhere. So after you broke opłatek, the wafer, with your friends, with your family members, you would go outside to give a piece of this holy wafer to the animals. So we were lucky to have a cow, a few sheep, and plenty of rabbits that multiplied all the time. And I would go as a young child with a piece of wafer to the cow, the sheep, the chickens, of course, and the rabbits, because it felt very special. The legend goes that if you listen carefully, you can hear the animals speak with human tongue of that holy night. This tradition is very dear to me because it highlights the very important fact that really we are all God's creatures. Whether you walk on 2 legs or 4, you have a tail or not, whether you say moo or mama, we are all God's creatures. We have created all these fences and separations between the species. But at the end, God has created all of us from the dust of the earth. And what is shocking is that even the animals made their way to the manger. Now think about it. From the day of his birth, Jesus the Christ is hanging out not only with the people, but also with the sheep and the cow and the donkey and all other kinds of animals. It's a beautiful and important lesson of Christmas, that when we come closer to God, we come closer to each other as well. Even to the extent of coming closer to the cows and the rabbits and all other creatures. That becoming someone more spiritual should make you more in touch with those who surround you, with the people who surround you, and with the creatures who surround you as well. If Jesus the Christ made the room in the manger for all kinds of creatures, we need to make room in our lives for other creatures as well. Now, it doesn't end over there. Besides all the sheep and donkey and cow, there are also all kinds of people. There are people who are rich and who are poor. There are people looking like me. There are people looking like Middle Eastern men, and people who look like African American people. In the manger, not only the divisions between the species are broken apart, but also the divisions between our own human race are standing no longer. We create these fences that separate us from each other. If you are making a minimum pay job, you feel uncomfortable going out with someone who makes 6 figures or more. You feel out of place, or vice versa. Or maybe you are one of those people who say, hey, I have a black friend too. I even know one Jewish person. It's not about that. When you look at the manger, you realize that our differences do not matter. When you look at the manger, you see very rich and powerful magi or kings, and very down-to-earth shepherds. And I imagine that if the magi and the shepherds were going to a restaurant together, they would not let the shepherds in with the magi's because they had no jacket and no tie. And they probably smelled really bad, worse than the rabbits in my grandparents' house. And yet, in the manger, they come together, rich and poor, people of different races, different backgrounds, different lifestyles come together to be closer to the Son of God and to each other. So I'm going back to the first lesson. The closer you get to God, the closer we get to each other. The more spiritual you become, the more you realize that all those divisions are artificial. The more you are aware how much we are united in our journey of faith, in our struggle to discover who God is and who we are. If you claim to be a person of faith or person who is spiritual, there is no room in your life for fences, for divisions, for pointing out to someone and saying, I can't picture going out for dinner with him or her. It is impossible. So instead of inviting you to make a New Year's resolution, I have a different challenge for you tonight. Make a last year resolution or an old year resolution. You only have 1 week left, so what do you have to lose, right? 1 week left, and there is my challenge to all of you. Meet someone who is different from you. Go out of your comfort zone and encounter a person that looks differently, perhaps speaks with a heavy accent. Meet someone, encounter someone that is from different social class, race. Meet someone you would not have met otherwise. Make an effort. Go out of your way to meet a person that nobody would have guessed you can be friends with. You probably will not become friends with them at once, but make the first step in the very last week of this year. Make a conscious effort to break the barriers and divisions in your life. And if you have a room for a new cat or dog or rabbit in your house, get one as well. Don't get it to eat it later, but get one to become friends with. The feast of the Nativity of the Lord is the feast of the encounter with different creatures and different people. This is the encounter with God which empowers you to meet the other as well. You have your homework. I hope you have done your Facebook and Instagram posts by now, and now we can move on with the rest of the Holy Mass. Amen.